Everyone. Good afternoon. Chris Meacham from Now It Works. We are going to start our presentation in a couple of minutes as soon as we get everyone here. So I will see you back real soon. Okay, everybody, I think we're here. I did ask for everyone to put in the chat any questions that you have. We do have half a dozen questions or so I'm looking forward to peppering those into the conversation. Today, we're talking about working securely from anywhere, which could be home or could be anywhere. While we're just getting started on our work from home for initiatives, it's understood what we have to do to keep ourselves safe, but how do we navigate this world from home and be secure at the same time? As we go, shout out any questions in the chat, and I'll do what I can to address them as we go on. My name is Chris Meacham. I am President and CIO, the Chief Information Officer at Now It Works. For the past 20 years, I have spoken to thousands of CEOs and presidents of companies about the 4 pillars of business technology: strategy, security, productivity, and support. And in this session, we're going to talk a lot about the security aspect. All right, so here's our discussion roadmap. Our first topic is the work from home initiative and some rules to follow along. And we'll review the other aspects of the business technology and how we can protect those assets as we go on. Here's a do and do not list. These are rules to live by in this information technology world that we're in. Please always use HTTPS. You'll know this because in the upper left-hand corner of all of your web browsers, it will show you that it is secure. Please do not use HTTP. Please be aware of those differences. When possible, use multi-factor authentication. You'll know that you're using that as it sends you a code to your phone or some second way to authenticate you past the password that you type in. If you can use a password manager or even better, a single sign-on tool, we'll talk about this a little later on. Those are really good ways to help secure and make your life a little bit more easier when you're managing passwords. Some of the secure remote options that exist: Microsoft Secure Remote Desktop, Screen Connect exists in some cases, and a good old VPN technology has been around for a really long time. It's still super secure. Don't use the same password everywhere. Don't save your passwords within the browser. I know it's very convenient for you to do that. Unfortunately, it's not the best experience. It's, again, super easy to do, but I caution you to do better with your passwords. And try to stay away from some of the remote options not supported by your IT provider. We tell our clients to say, way to go to my PC and log me in and Splashtop and any VPN that has not been approved by the companies we work with or by us specifically. There are a couple of options that exist. I would say most companies are going to fall into one of these 3 buckets. If the technology lives in your office, it's the most secure way to get into the office is going to be using some sort of VPN component. This gives the business ultimate flexibility in what the connections have access to, and it helps to make sure the computer trying to get inbound passes a checklist of safety goals. For instance, are you running the most up-to-date version of antivirus? Are you using a supported operating system? Yes, then I'll allow you into the next step. Once you've gotten into the VPN, remote desktop is an option, or you're just going to connect securely to your file shares. Most of our clients have subscribed to a commercial grade web-based file system that allows them to sync and share files with ease. And finally, in some cases, we're allowing folks to connect with ConnectWise Control or Screen Connect. It's a way for low requirement computers to be connected. If you host your network in a cloud or someone else's data center, Now it Works has a cloud-based offering that forces you to connect through the secure desktop connection. If you're using Rackspace or any of those other online services, I'm sure they're going to give you a secure remote connection into the environment. Don't take my word for it. Please check and double check with your IT folks to make sure that you are being secure. There are a lot of things that IT does. It doesn't necessarily mean that everything's secure. It's always good to check. Finally, if you're in the third bucket, all the way to the right, where a lot of companies are headed, you're completely based in a web app world. So you're using Firefox or Chrome or Safari, whatever web browser you choose to get into applications like Salesforce, Office 365, Confluence, Slack, your voice over IP provider, everything's web-based now. This is where the single sign-on manager comes in, will be really, really helpful. One thing to raise awareness, again, don't save your passwords in a web browser, save them in a password manager. All right, let's move on to some people. There's a scam going around that one of my clients received. A woman who was the marketing manager for a company, a client of mine. She'd been there 3 weeks, and she got an email from the guy down the hall. His name was John. He was in a meeting, closed door meeting, and she got an email from him that said, I need you to go down to the store. I said, I need you to go do something for me. And she said, sure, what do you need? He's like, can you send me your cell phone number? So she's like, oh, okay, kind of strange. Sends her cell phone number. And now the conversation moved from email to text. And then he said, I need you to go down to the store and pick up 50 gift cards from eBay and send me the codes on the back. She's like, wow, really? This is very strange. This is definitely not what my job responsibilities are. And it certainly is not something that I've ever been asked to do before. They don't even give me a credit card. I've been here 3 weeks. So she confirmed, she's like, hey, are you really serious? Do you want me to go down there? He's like, yeah, I definitely want you to go do that. So she's like, okay. And so she gathers up her stuff and turns around, and there's the guy out of a closed door meeting, just pouring coffee. And she's like, are you serious? And he's like, what are you talking about? And so right away she knew that she had been scammed. Email scams are abundant. They'll infiltrating email, they're copying signatures of higher ranking employees and moving the discussions offline. There's stories of forwarding emails to the thread, to the deleted items. Hackers are getting really sophisticated. Some viruses the hackers aren't even going down the virus route. They're just trying to hack business operations. They're trying to hack the people. And for this, we combat it with security training. We need to train the last line of defense, which is the person, on what to look for. And we do this through a number of phishing and training initiatives. Here's what it looks like. We send out an email to the entire organization, and we see who clicks on it. It's going to be a link. It's going to, be enticing, and we're going to want them to click on it. And we track it, and we know who the highest risk users are. And we continually train them. So after we send them the first phishing test, we send them through some training, which is delivered through a web browser. And then past that, we just keep phishing them. We just keep phishing them over and over again, maybe once a month, maybe twice a month, depending on a lot of different variables. And I can trick them with USB keys or phone calls, but really I just want to educate them as to where they're going. We find the highest risk people and get them trained throughout the year. And we're always testing. So it's a good system to have in place. Here's 2 questions before I move on. Someone was asking, what is a good password manager? Wow, it's a good question. Good password manager, you can use something like LastPass, is a decent application to use. I like KeePass. KeePass is an application that you download and install on your computer, and so it keeps all of your passwords on your computer. There is a mobile option, there is a web option. To be totally fair, I'm cautious of all web-based password managers, because if they're hosted in the web, then that thing gets hacked, and then there's all your passwords. So take a look at KeePass. It's a little bit more restrictive, but I think it's relatively easy to use. LastPass, if you want something to use for your team, is also a decent tool. Okay, getting back to the security training we were just talking about here, does everyone go through training? Yes, everybody goes through training. including the executives who need just different training than everybody else to make sure that they know what to look for. We do training for the people, and we do training for programmers, and we have special training for people on the help desk. So depending what role you are, you'll get that training. Is it the same content over and over again? No, it does change. The company that we're working with does have a ton of new content that comes out on a regular basis, so we can always keep it fresh and relevant. Okay, let's switch over to talk about file data for a minute. Where is your data and who has the latest copy? I think is one of the conversations I have the most when it comes to data. Sure, file exists on the server or SharePoint or Google or Dropbox, but there's also the desktop and the My Documents folder and wherever else people find spots to put their data. I'd like to give them an easy single location for all of their data. And what we found to work best is this Swiss Army knife for file data that's accessible from multiple devices, can work within large offices or small, and has one of the best ways to manage permissions, sharing, and absolute control of your data. I want to give them an easy single location for all of their data. Access from any device, it's always up to date with some syncing options for those who need to be offline. And think about how many emails you get with attachments of documents and modified documents and remodified documents. Perhaps people having to notate a document helps to reduce communication, but focus your time on a specific topic. This worked for one of my clients. One out of every 4 emails got reduced in their inbox because they stopped sending emails back and forth with documents. They were just using the tasks inside of this document management system. Malware protection is a real thing. It's a real issue plaguing lots of companies. And should malware sneak through, you'll know that with a click, we can actually restore all of the files to their last known revised date very simply, so we're not having to go through lots of downtime to recover documents. And finally, know who is sharing your documents and have control over how those documents are being shared. Okay, so one of the questions that came in earlier was waiting for this section. What happens if my employee is hacked at home? Well, that's a great question, and one with a ton of different options. I think everyone has a different idea of what hacked means, so don't panic. Please try to understand exactly what that person meant. Get your IT resource on the phone, have a conversation with them, and see if we can uncover exactly what's happened. Did their computer at home get hacked, and so their credit card was used in a breach, but all of your data is okay? Or are they storing data on your computer and therefore it's synchronized into your server and you're going to have a bad day? We don't know. Don't panic. Grab your IT resource, ask them those questions. What happens if I think I'm hacked is a question that popped up when we did some in-person discussions, and I always want you to know that there's a couple of documents that you should have, especially in 2020. You should always have a disaster recovery plan. What's going to happen when your business needs to recover from something? What's the business continuity plan? What happens when you have an entire workforce that's working from home? How do you keep business going? And finally, the incident response plan. This is the document that directs your team what to do in case of a breach. This is usually where IT is moving off doing some of the really technical things, restoring files and stopping viruses and slowing down email servers. There's a responsibility from the company, from the organization, to get out there and let their people know that there's something has happened. If you don't have one, hit me up in the chat. If I rated my computer's security low and I wanted to increase it, what do I do? Well, there's lots of things that you can do. And there's some low-hanging fruit that you probably could start to chip away at those things first before you have to change directives of companies and start talking about culture changes and all sorts of things. There's probably 3 or 4 things we can do. Passwords are the first thing. Make sure everyone's password is changed. So kind of clean the slate, start the slate clean from there. Start looking at setting up multi-factor authentication. And I would take a serious hard look at all of the user accounts that exist in your multitude of tools and make sure that you don't have data leakage problem because you forgot to delete Jim's account who left 6 months ago. I would start with those things. Obviously, I can help you do a lot more. Reach out to me in the chat, or I'll have my contact information up at the end of this webinar. A couple of contacts for you: support@nowitworks.com. This exists for our current clients to send an email request, and security@nowitworks.com exists, the new mailbox we created, just to be aware when security issues like this pop up. How do we go about resolving those and getting them resolved quickly? Okay, one of the ways we can protect you is to only run the apps that should be running and nothing else. So let's talk about this HVAC contractor office. Patty in billing gets a call from a valid vendor, a new person she'd never talked to before, informing her that there was an upgrade and she asked to install the new secure whatever the guy was talking about, which of course makes sense to Patty. She complies. She gets the software up and running. She logs in successfully and she thanks Frankie. Frankie, who's not employed by the vendor, just to grab the credentials to the vendor management system at Target. And this is one of the stories that went on about how Target got hacked. Was not through Target directly, but was through a vendor. Imagine if there was a protection that stopped Patty from installing the program. Or better yet, just didn't allow the program to run. And then IT got an alert and then had a chat with Patty. This is the story of how many different walls we put up to protect ourselves. Firewalls for the office, antivirus for the desktops, spam on the email, training for the user, when in fact, one of the best defenses is just to only allow the apps that should run. So do you use Skype for business in your office? No, maybe you use Teams, or maybe you use Slack. Okay, good. Then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna disable Skype for business, and I'm gonna disable Slack. So only Teams runs inside your organization. Is that okay? Sounds like an easy question. We have the ability to do that. And this helps in so many ways. One, it helps to reduce the apps that could potentially pose challenges to the integrity of your business. Think malware and keyloggers. But in addition, do we know what applications people that installed on their computer unbeknownst to anyone? Not really. With a threat locker deployment, we can only allow the applications that need to run. After installation, I let it run for a little bit, I come back and we start removing the applications that do not need to run, and you become more secure with every swipe. Good time to talk about password management and single sign-on. Single sign-on is a technology that allows you to log in really to one interface, and then most of the times it's a web page. You log into a web page, username, password, maybe you've got the multi-factor authentication set up, and the next box that pops up is all of the web-based applications that have been synchronized to this box. So for instance, when you click on Salesforce, you get right in. You click on Office 365, you get logged in. You click on Slack, you get right logged in. So no more having to remember multiple passwords, no more having to handle different password policies that pop up. Salesforce wants you to change your password every 60 days, but Slack does every 45 days, and so you got to come up with these crazy passwords. The other good thing about the single sign-on tool is that it does allow you to store your other passwords to web pages inside of the password management tool, which is really exciting. And I think that that is a way to go to secure your folks. Let's talk about devices, be it mobile phone, Surface, tablet, Mac, Windows, Linux, Atari. Okay, not the Atari, but computers will only do what you tell them to do. Did you know that Windows 10 is a keylogger policy that can get turned on through a number of ways? It's a built-in tool to Windows 10. Do you think we should disable this? Of course. So what we did, we would know anyone. So if we did this, how would we know if it got re-enabled? And this is what the automation that we deploy to our computers. We tell it what to do and what not to do in a sense. It also helps to provide remote control for support, antivirus, malware protection, maintenance, and of course, deploying new software to your computers automatically. This third wall or advanced compliance is around the Windows 10 keylogger issue we just talked about. I set the PC to disable it, and then it keeps a little eye on it. And anytime that it turns its back in advanced compliance, will turn it back on, or turn it off, it'll tell me and my team about it. So it knows when it's moving into a non-compliant state, automatically re-enables it back to compliance, and then shoots an email back to my team. I've got about 43 or 45 of those little guys running around watching very specific pieces of your computer to secure it. What about disabling the ability to write to a USB drive? Does anyone still use a USB drive? Possibly. If you're still using USB drives for data mobility, we could set up dedicated USB hard drives that are encrypted. Identified by person and what data was written to them. Is that of interest? Do you need to be able to control the content going back and forth on USB drives? We got you covered. One of the things that my clients have asked me about, especially now with a work from home team, how do I know when people log in and out of their computer? Well, we can do that as well. We certainly have the technology now to monitor logins and log offs. And should we need to run past that to figure out, how much application time, how much time has the eyes been on the computer, how many keyboard strokes have been hit? We have some advanced ways to make that happen as well. Email, we use it to share files and updates, tell very long stories when they should just be picked up the phone. Usually when you send an email, in about 10 to 30 seconds, the email pops up in the inbox of the recipient. And this next infographic, and it kind of amazes me still to this day, 20 plus years into the field, when you hit send, that's the little paper clip in the orange box on the left. When you hit send, the email goes through a whole bunch of systems. And it reviews the email, looks for validity, opens up the attachments, knows where the links are inside the email, all before it ends up in your inbox. And on the flip side, when you hit send, the ability for the following tasks take place. It inspects the content, like first think social security numbers or other content that you think would be going out. It can automatically encrypt the email. It can add a standard disclaimer to every email that goes out or give you a customized signature for every single person. And it cleans up the email, all before it ends up in the recipient's mailbox. One other question came in about email protection. I am hosted at Rackspace. Can I get this email inbound thing? Yes, it does not matter what you're using for an email system. If you're using Office 365 or Rackspace or GoDaddy or Gmail or your brother-in-law's email server, it does not matter what your server is. This protection I just showed you, the inbound and the outbound, exists independent of whatever email system you're currently using. Okay, so some takeaways. Everyone should have a work from home plan. You should have an incident response plan. I think that's vital, especially in today's society. Use a password manager, even better, get the single sign-on tool for all your major applications. 2 email addresses, support@nowitworks.com is what we use for support requests, and security@nowitworks.com is an email account set up to review security threats that are coming in. Phone numbers there, free offer. Anyone who does not have a work from home system and your team needs to be able to do so, please let me know. My email address, chris@nowitworks.com, phone number 860-899-1860. It's up on the screen. I'll leave this here. Looks like those are all the questions. I appreciate you attending. Thank you so very much. My contact information is there. If you need me for anything else, please hit me up in chat or you can get back to me. Thanks so much.